A fool is one of the first things in my sketchbook, so I've been wanting to make one for a while, and I've also got a perfect example watching this video right now that I can use for reference. I'll be working on an acrylic sheet because today I'm using monster clay. I laid down a base shape and then started adding the right shapes and details. I'm used to working with polymer clay, so it was a bit weird, but the nice thing about this type of clay is that you can heat it up to soften it and make it easier to work with, and then once it cools down, it holds details very well. Also, I lied earlier, this sculpture is actually based on Shaco from League of Legends. It's pronounced Shaco, but I've always said it as Shaco. I can't be the only one, right? I gave him some eye sockets and worked on his beautiful smile. I took a bit of a different approach to sculpting when working with this clay. It was a nice experience overall, but I couldn't get the clay to be as smooth as I would like. But I will definitely try some more projects with it in the future. And why am I even using this clay instead of polymer clay? Well, I wanted to make a mold of the sculpture, and this kind of clay just works better for that purpose. After spending a copious amount of time on trying to smooth the teeth, I refined the shape of the jaw. Added a nose and smoothed it into the rest of the face. Lastly, I went over the hat part to try and get it even and smooth on both sides. I'm heating the clay with the heat gun to soften it, but you have to be careful with this because the clay can get very hot. Then some final details on the hat and cracks on the mask. I really love adding details like this, but I'm always scared to ruin all my hard work that went into trying to get the surface smooth. I added little diamonds on the edges of the hat, and the sculpting is done. In a final effort to smooth the surface even a bit more, I went over it with isopropyl alcohol. Then it's time to trap him in a cardboard prison. I'm not great at planning or math, so I didn't realize how much molding silicone I would really need. I ended up doing multiple pours with different ones, so the mold looks a bit funky, but it works. Looking at it now, I would have molded it differently, but that's for next time. I removed the sculpture and cleaned the mold. To cast it, I'm using smooth cast. Since the mold is so thick, it's a bit difficult to remove the piece, but it works. The plastic crawls a bit on the edges and is pretty sharp, so I will sand it down with my Dremel. And of course, I'm wearing a mask for this. I will also sand the surface a bit to smooth it and prime it for painting. I went over it with isopropyl alcohol to degrease the surface. And primed it with a plastic primer. One side of the mask got painted a dark red and the other one a dark gray. This, of course, took multiple layers for a nice base. Then I went over the middle raised part with a lighter color. and then again with an even lighter one to give the hat more depth. The other side got the same treatment. Going with a pure gray color would be a bit boring, so I went with a more purple tone. The little diamonds got a base layer of red and then gold on top. Like most of my projects, I painted something and then hated it. This time it's the mask. So I'm starting with a base layer of gray. Then I went over the whole thing with a black wash. It's hard to see, but I added back some lighter highlights, focusing most on the teeth to help them stand out a bit more. The eye sockets got painted in a dark gray. I realized at this point that I should have sculpted a slight eyeball shape as well. The eyes themselves are supposed to be glowing, so I started with a base blue and dry brushed on a lighter tone. Then I added some watered down paint and an even lighter dry brush. And a final highlight. Lastly, I sprayed it with a matte varnish, and that's it. Thank you to my lovely patrons for all their support, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!